So I am recording, and I want to share with you first of all that we are talking about what is this about a feel-good religion this month, as in, and the problem with that is none that I can think of. And today's talk is about feeling good. I'm addressing my words and ideas this month to the synchronicity between that concept of feeling good and the science of mind. And as we've agreed before, truth is truth. Different sources are merely different channels of expression. So we embrace truth wherever and whenever we find it. And today I want to talk about the application of the energy of spirit and how we can apply spiritual principles in the events of our lives. This is why we do Standing in the Light every Sunday morning, to remind ourselves and to share with others that we are always on that spiritual center out of which the events of our lives transpire. And the direction that we go is as a result of the center from which we start. So when we talk about recreational activities, or we talk about our creative expression in art and music and so many other forms, writing, recording, when we talk about these various areas of expression in our lives, those are the effect. That's what happens as a result of who and what we are when we begin the process. Even though sometimes it seems like things come out of the blue, like that really wasn't what I expected. The universe has such incredible variety in terms of its offerings. It may have offered me a dozen different options before canoeing showed up, and I focused on that. There may have been a myriad of other events occurring around me, and I chose to join a chorus. So those are a part of that smorgasbord of opportunities that are always available to us. And sometimes it seems like it chose me, which is fine. There is something deep within me that seeks a form of expression, and that resonates. And why not? So that's when we learn to do not what we have been told or think is the best thing for us, but rather that which expresses the best of us because we love it, because we align with it, because we gravitate toward it. And applying spiritual principles in the events of our lives is a reminder to key on the word spiritual. Because for every issue, for every problem, so-called, for every challenge, there is always a spiritual answer for it. It doesn't have to be on your knees praying out of desperation. It can just as well, and probably better be, expressing yourself physically, or in voice, or in writing, or in any of these endless opportunities that present themselves in the human experience, where there is a positive result, that I am expressing myself in a positive way. And suddenly what seemed a heavy burden previously has taken on a much lighter sense of responsibility or pressure. And then perhaps, if necessary, I can return to that, and I come to it in a whole different mindset, don't I? Because now I am clear, now I am focused, and now I am in resolution mode rather than in the problem itself. So I think it goes without saying that we all know that life is a gift. It's one of an endless array of gifts that we experience through infinity, that our essence goes through in the process of infinite expression. And this life here on this planet in this form is the current gift. The question is, what do we do with it? What have we done with it is over and done with. What will we do with it is yet to be revealed. What are we doing with it right here, right now, in this moment? And in line with what we're talking about this month, about this feel-good religion, yes, no problem. Look at the endless possibilities that exist for us. First of all, we appeared in physical form. We had nothing to do with the original color of our eyes, the color of our hair, well, the original color of our hair, the color of our skin, how tall or not we're going to be. We burst into this plane of existence, given the gift of physical life to go with our spiritual essence. So how's that working for you? You know, does it matter what color your eyes are? You can change those in today's world, can't you? With contact lenses. The same with the color of hair. 30 minutes, it's changed. As far as tallness, sometimes if we're not quite as wide, we look a little taller, don't we? And I think I've told you this story of one of my students when I was at Foothills Center for Spiritual Living, a man, who said he was always disappointed that he wasn't taller. And one Sunday he came in, and during standing in the light, he shared with us, "I have found the solution to growing taller." Now, this is a man who was in his early 50s when he said this. So it wasn't like he was still growing physically like an 18-year-old. He said, "I've been working out with a personal trainer for about 6 months. And he said, when we began, he took all my measurements. And periodically, he takes my measurements again. And he said, one of the things that I thought, but even as a religious scientist did not believe could happen, was along with this bulking up and getting stronger and looking better, I sure would like to be taller. So I said, I want you to know that this past week, he took all my measurements at the 6-month point. And guess what? I'm almost 2 inches taller. No shoes to make a difference. But he said, what's been happening as I get stronger is I'm standing straighter. And as I stand straighter, I'm taller than I was. So you see, nothing is really impossible. There just are different ways to experience it. So, how are you using the gift of life? How are you standing in the power of the God-given gift? You know, when you look at it from that standpoint, it takes on a different meaning. The God-given gift. This is the gift of inheritance. This is what comes with the package when we come into this plane of existence. The gift. The inheritance. You don't have to create it. You don't have to wait for it. It's already there. The question is, how are you using it? How are you expressing it? Well, one of the ways to do that is to feel good. To feel good about yourself. To feel good about the things you do and say. To feel good about the talents and the skills you have. After all, look who created them with you. I got to go back to that. This month's science mine, because at the beginning of the daily statements there is a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Though we travel the world over to find the beautiful, we must carry it with us or we find it not. Another way of saying you can't see it if you don't know it. It's already within you, and that's what causes you to recognize it. I just think that's so prophetic, and at the same time, so incredibly valuable. And in today's, you can tell I was particularly impressed with today's. And this is Reverend Ron Fox from one of our centers in Florida, who is writing the daily writings for us this month. And he says, the search for God takes many forms. For some, it's an external search, perhaps, looking for a new religion, hallucinogenic drugs, or for the teacher of the month. For some of us, the search begins and ends within. We remove ourselves from the noise of the world and listen for that still small voice, the voice that calls us to remember who we really are. And it's amazing how often that voice sounds just like your own when you come to open to that. So many opportunities for us to open up from within and experience that incredible feeling of peace when we know that we are coherent with ourselves. Remember what Emma Curtis Hopkins said, our lips must agree with our heart in order for our words to have meaning. One of my minister friends starts each one of his prayer treatments with these words. Remember now, I remember who I am and whose I am. So he says to himself, right now, remember now, I remember who I am and whose I am. That creative energy that brought me into this plane of experience. It's an incredible alignment, isn't it? So, and here's the next question I want to ask you. What do you do for fun that makes you feel good about yourselves? I think most of us can remember experiences that were a lot of fun, and we didn't feel so good about them afterward. Maybe during the process we felt pretty good about them, but afterward we didn't feel so good about ourselves. But what do you do for fun that causes you to feel good about yourself afterward and ongoing? Because you see, that's what feeds you. The other is passing. And once having passed, no longer serves. So what do you do for fun that causes you to feel good about yourself and continue to feel good about yourself? Because that's a part of living with meaning and purpose. So now I want to talk a little bit about the gift of talent. See if you recognize this quote. Come with me to an enchanted space, a forest where Winnie the Pooh lived with Piglet, Rabbit, Owl, Eeyore, Kang, and Little Roo. A. Milne, Childhood Stories, Winnie the Pooh. Such talent that was brought to us as children, and for many we still remember that joy and that laughter that it brought to us and continues to bring to children everywhere of all ages. Come with me to an enchanted place. a forest where Winnie the Pooh lived, with Piglet, Rabbit, Owl, Eeyore. Everybody knows Eeyore. I mean, Walt Disney made sure of that. Eeyore, Kang, and Little Roo. Little Roo still shows up in crossword puzzles for me ever so often. And think about the magnificent voices of Botticelli, for example, Johnny Cash, Celine Dion, that resonate in our hearts. When I first heard Susan Boyle, y'all know who Susan Boyle is? When I first heard her on TV, I grabbed a scrap of paper and wrote down the first words that came to me, which were, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. I mean, here she was on a program where people got panned for any of a variety of wonderful performances and accepted for some mediocre, by my judgment, performances. And here she was, and the eyes of the judges got bigger and bigger and bigger as she sang. She didn't look like she was a world-class singer. She didn't act like it when she stepped up to begin. And then she opened her mouth and began to sing, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. That was a reminder to me that there was something in that to share in a talk someday. And here we are. So the next thing I want to say to you is don't leave this plane of existence with your music still in you. Old quote. Scores of philosophers and sages have sent that same message to us. Don't die with your music still in you. Your music, in a figurative sense, is your passion, is the thing that when you do it, you lose track of time because you're so captured by the sheer joy of doing it. It's the thing you do that makes you feel good while you're doing it, and it doesn't matter whether you're good at it or not. I think we can all share that with you, that we start with not being good at it, and then eventually we begin to get acceptable in our own eyes, and that's when we begin to see the vast possibilities in front of us. Those that we participate with who are so good by our judgment. By theirs, they're probably viewing it very differently because they still aspire to something greater. But that's the beauty of it. And for me personally, what I have found here on this island is the acceptance of those who are better, of those who are lesser, and the opportunity to be in their presence and to learn from them. So, any time is a good time for us to reflect on our past deeds, forgiving ourselves for the ones we are not particularly proud of, and moving into daily celebration that life is a gift. It's a gift with awesome meaning and purpose, and that everything I have done and been and thought and said up until this moment has made me who I am today. And in that regard, I bless it all. The good times, the challenging times, the sad times, I bless it all because it's part of who and what I am today. And however I performed at those levels has brought me to this level today. And last week, Kim gifted us with a song toward the end of our service about blessing and releasing, blessing and releasing. And that's what's so important. If there are things in our past that no longer serve us, that we're not proud of, that we wish had been different, we can bless them because they helped mold us into who we are today, and we can release them. I am blessing and releasing. So it's a good thing to see how spiritual it is, and yet it's not onerous. It's easy as we go through our day to bless things and release them. We don't have to be on our knees. We don't have to be prostrate with our forehead on the floor. We don't have to be in a prayerful pose. We don't have to be in meditation. We can do that driving down the road. To bless and release, to bless and release. And to remember that life is meant to be lived with a feeling of joy, with a feeling of positive expectancy, with a feeling of lightness. That life is meant to feel good as we live it. You see, if you can aspire to a day in the week when you feel good, or a moment in the day when you feel good, or a week in the month when you feel good, now you know what that feels like. And that can become the benchmark for you, the touchstone of aspiration. And then the more that unfolds for you, you can start to raise that expectation. But one step at a time, right? So whatever brings those feelings for you is the right and perfect way for you to feel good about yourself. Because when you make a joyful noise unto the Lord, you are living your life with meaning and with purpose. You are feeling good through the expression of spirit through your gifts. Those were the gifts given upon creation for you to express. And each of us has our own individual gift to bring and to give. Don't die with the music still in you. Give the gift. Give that to humanity. And as each of us does that, we begin to recognize the value of each individual and what they bring to the whole expression. At the end of Rosh Hashanah in the Jewish religion, in the celebration services at the synagogue, as the congregants leave, they say to each other, "May you be inscribed in the book of life." May you be inscribed in the book of life. So I'd like to extend to each of you today that same blessing. May you be inscribed in the book of life. May you find meaning and purpose, love and joy in all the days of your life. And feel good doing it. And so it is. Thank you.